Just in case you didn't know, you're listening to Men of Abundance, episode 135, with Mark Podolsky, a.k.a. the Land Geek.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
What is new and amazing in your world, Men of Abundance? I hope you had an amazing weekend. Man, we have a jam-packed week this week. I'm bringing you 4 shows, 3 interview shows, and of course, Pay It Forward Aloha Friday. Today, we are talking with Mark Podolsky, a.k.a. the Land Geek. And then on Tuesday, you get the rare treat of talking to an old Army buddy of mine that I was stationed with in Germany. This dude, Timothy Stroud, is an unbelievable individual. Wait until you hear what this cat has going on. Then on Thursday, we're going to be talking with Todd Tressiter, and he is your financial mentor. So this week, we are talking about real estate. Then we're going to have an amazing conversation with an Army buddy of mine, and then we're going to talk about finances and how to make it not so boring and super interesting to you so that you can take care of that part of your life as well. So guys, if you have not done so already, make sure that you subscribe to Men of Abundance on whatever podcast player you're listening to this on. If you're listening on the website, click on one of the buttons underneath the podcast player so that you can make sure that you get every single episode automatically downloaded to your phone as soon as it airs. Also, underneath the podcast player, you can leave a rating and review that would be greatly appreciated. If you're brand new here, welcome. Thank the person that invited you here, that turned you on to Men of Abundance, then pay it forward and share it with somebody else. That's how we get the word out, guys. All right, so I know all of you have so much going on. You want to get on to that next podcast. I want you to get through this one and get a lot out of it, just like I did when I first had the conversation with Mark, and then while I was doing the editing just a few minutes ago. So I'm going to get right into it and introduce you to Mark. Mark J. Podolsky, a.k.a. the Land Geek, is widely considered the country's most trusted and foremost authority on buying and selling raw, undeveloped land within the United States. He has been actively investing in real estate and raw land since 2001 and has completed over 5,000 unique transactions. Mark has achieved this level of success largely due to his core business philosophy, happy customers guaranteed. Mark is the host of one of the top-rated podcasts in the investing category on iTunes, aptly titled The Best Passive Income Model and The Art of Passive Income. He is also the host of the Land Geek podcast, Work Smart, Earn More, Learn How. Men of Abundance, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Mark J. Podolsky. Mark, welcome to Men of Abundance, man. How you doing?
Wally Carmichael, pulse is normal, respiration's fine. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks so much.
And I see you're walking on the treadmill while you're talking to me.
Absolutely, because, sitting's the new smoking.
I dig it. I absolutely dig it. And I do sit quite a bit, but I'm that guy that I just absolutely have to get up about every 40 minutes and take a walk or stretch out or walk around because I just get so stiff. But I dig the walking and the talking.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel like I think better, walking and talking.
It makes sense. I definitely think better when I'm on my feet for sure. So where are you at in the world other than on the treadmill?
I'm in your old hometown, Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, you are. That absolutely. Born and raised. We've said it many times out here. And what are you originally from Phoenix?
No, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri.
How in the world did you end up in Phoenix from St. Louis?
My wife and I were married for about a year, and I was working with dentists at the time in Kansas City. And we went out here to visit her parents that were snowbirds from Milwaukee. And I'm looking around, and I didn't love my job at the time. And every day was just beautiful. And the mountains and, growing up in the Midwest, your day could get ruined by weather within an hour, right? Mm-hmm. So, but here, your day never gets ruined by weather. And I just became enamored with it. Very young city, and beautiful. And I'm like, honey, let's move here. And she said, no. And I said, come on. And she said, no. I said, well, give it 5 years, and if you don't like it, we'll move back to the Midwest. Well, it's been almost 20 years and 3 kids later, and
Oh
she
my
still
goodness.
wants to move.
Yeah, yeah. So where about in Phoenix are you?
So I'm in a little pocket called Paradise Valley.
Oh yeah, I know it well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, before we get too much into the show, I really like to start out the way that I start pretty much every single morning, and that's with an attitude of gratitude. So what do you have to be grateful for today, Mark?
So, it's so funny because I wake up every morning, I write my gratitude journal, and I really think about I write like 3 things I'm grateful for. So today, I was just really grateful to wake up healthy, pain-free. I hurt my back last week, and be next to my wife, who was also, in a happy, good mood, and then, be able to make breakfast for my children and drive them to school. I was super grateful for that. And then to be able to come home and do work that I really love doing, I was super grateful for that.
All great things. And, just that habit is so transforming. It has been for me anyway.
No, absolutely. I love this Tony Robbins quote, suffering is an excessive focus on yourself. And when you're grateful, you can't be focused on yourself and your stuff. Mm-hmm. You're just great. You're just like the state of gratitude for all these things that you already have and not that you want.
Excellent. Absolutely. So, we talked a little bit about what you do with real estate, and we're going to get a little bit more into that just because I have a huge interest in real estate and specifically raw land. I've never talked to anybody who's actually done that. But I would like to hear a little bit more about you. Here on Men of Abundance, we really like to get to know the man behind the abundance. So let's get a little bit personal, Mark.
Well, it's a very broad question. Who am I, right? And I think it changes as I get older, where, what was important to me, let's say when I was in my 20s and, chasing, money and, big houses and big cars and prestige. And then in my 30s, getting all that stuff. And then in my 40s, going through some hard times in real estate, and then, having this realization that, conventional success really is not going to make me happy, right? And so I think that as I get into in my 40s, I'm really focused on, a few things, and just, number one, being present with my children, my wife, my friends, my family, and having this attitude of gratitude, and instead of goal setting, fear setting, right? So I'm prepared to be homeless, right? I don't want to be homeless, but I can go out and take big risks in business and real estate, because the worst case, I'm already prepared for it.
Yeah, very good point. You've been doing real estate, what you're doing now, since about 2001. What did you do before that?
So I was a very unhappy investment banker, mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups. And I had a 45-minute commute to work and back, and high pressure and micromanaged. And, I wouldn't get the Sunday blues anticipating Monday. I'd get the Friday blues anticipating the weekend going by really fast and having to be back at work on Monday. And, the way I fell into land was my firm hires this guy, and he's telling me that on the side, he's going to tax deed auctions. He's buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar. He's flipping it online, and he's making 300% returns on his investment. Well, Wally, I'm looking at companies all day long. I mean, a great company has 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. Great company. Your average company is at 10%. I'm looking at companies all day long that are less than 10%. So I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm from the Show Me State. I don't believe him. So we go to this, little town in New Mexico. I've got $3,000 saved up for car repairs. And sure enough, I bought 10 half-acre parcels, an average price of $300. The next week, I just did exactly what he said to do. I put them up online, and I sold them for an average price of over $1,200. It worked. So then I went to another tax deed auction, and man, this is 2000. No one's in the room. And I took all that money. I bought up as much raw land as I could in Arizona. I flipped all that over 6 months. I made $90,000 on that one auction. So I go to my wife. I'm like, honey, I'm ready to quit my job and invest in land full time. She said, absolutely not. So I said, fine. So I invested in raw land part-time while I worked full-time at my miserable job. And it took me 18 months for the land investing income to exceed my investment banking income. And I've been doing it full-time ever since. And I love it.
Wow, Mark, you really said quite a bit there, and I'm going to circle back to some of that. And I originally asked that question. We delved so much deeper than I even expected, because I originally asked that question because do you still, first off, that very stressful. When I hear the story about more heart attacks are on Mondays than ever, I think of that occupation that you were doing before. Those are those guys that come to work and have a heart attack. I mean, if they even make it to work. Very stressful. Do you still communicate with some of those guys that you worked with before?
I see them occasionally in town, but I not really.
The reason why I ask that is because I've been thinking about this over the last couple of days, because those of us that are doing something outside the norm, and what you're doing is outside the norm from what you were doing before, certainly. Here I am podcasting on the side. I've got my little side hustles going on and stuff. And when I post something on social media that I got a new job or I got a raise at my job, 200 people are going to like it and comment. But when I put anything about anything sort of outside of the norm, I bought a parcel, or I launched a new podcast to this guy that that's doing these amazing things in the world that's completely different than anybody else is doing. It's like crickets. The only people that comment are the people that are in my circle, in that circle, right? So I bring that up because I just wonder if you find the same thing kind of with what you're doing, either with your real estate or with your podcasting or anything else you got going on.
It's funny because I don't spend a whole lot of time on social media. So, I'm on there, but I'm not. Mark himself doesn't do it. I'm a real geeky guy, Wally. So, I've got tons of systems and automation. My businesses are 90% automated. I don't know, to tell you the truth. I would say though, I think that what you're saying is true though, where if you're outside of the typical convention, you're going to attract some hate because, people are threatened by it in a way, right? Because it makes them think, well, what am I doing wrong? Like, why can't I be like Wally?
Or they don't even believe it, because that's the other thing that I want to touch on is your wife was like, absolutely not. And I can relate because, and correct me if I'm wrong, and many guys that I talk to in my own personal situation is my wife, I'll speak for my wife specifically, is that draw to security, the traditional security of the job. But there's so much more out there, and the security can be managed in other ways. And you tracking what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I just find that very interesting that, I love it when I talk to couples that both of them are fully on board with this non-traditional way of income. I absolutely love it because I feel the struggle of people, men and women, who their partner just has a hard time with really grasping the entrepreneur mindset of really just wanting to set their own time and not be stressed out. It's not even about working for somebody else. It's just working in a very stressful environment. And no matter what amount of money that you earn at something like that, if it's stressing you out and causing you health issues, I just don't see how it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually take off Mondays and Fridays. I call them my terminal days. So I say to, my wife, like, look, today, let's pretend that I got diagnosed with terminal cancer, right? How would I want to spend that day? And so oftentimes, when you think like that, like it's great because we go, I spend time with my wife or the kids. I pick them up after school or, doing these things that I would want to do if that was going to be my last day on earth, right? And so having that mindset really, forces you into the present and makes you grateful for that day, right? So I'm super grateful to have those terminal days to sort of, simulate, well, I don't know when I'm going to die. It could be that day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I really think that, I don't think I know that, time spent doing what you really love to do with the people that you love doing, you'll never regret. Where if you're just chasing, money or stuff, it's just going to feel empty.
I dig it. A terminal day. I absolutely love it. As long as you've been doing everything, I'm sure not everything went absolutely 100% perfect with every single deal or even in life in general. Everybody has that kick in the gut moment, that one that really just takes the wind out of their sail, takes them to their knees in some cases. So I'd love for you to share one of those stories with us, one of those kick in the gut moments, and just really make us feel that.
So, it's 2010. And the funny thing about land investing is that we're like the long tail of real estate. So while everybody else was getting crushed in 2008, in 2009, I didn't really get hit until 2010, right? So I've got a huge home. I've got luxury cars. My kids are in private school. I've got young kids, so I've got a nanny 5 days a week and a housekeeper 5 days a week. My personal overhead is super, super high. And all of a sudden, it was just like one day, right? Like half my income gets dropped, right? I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And dealing with that and slowly and methodically cutting out all these things that, we thought were important to us, getting rid of the car, getting rid of the big house, getting rid of the nanny, getting rid of the housekeeper, not going out to big dinners every night. And I remember thinking like, this is just, like my ego was hit so hard at that time. And I thought, I'm a failure. And then I don't know. I came out of it. I remember playing like charades on a Saturday night with the kids instead of going out to like a big, fancy dinner and thinking, well, this is way better. You know what I mean? But getting to that point and getting stripped of all this stuff and in the anguish and the guilt and feeling like I let my wife down, I let my kids down, the moving and taking them out of their school that they loved. It was really, really a huge kick in the head from an ego standpoint. And it took a long time, maybe 2 years before I really felt comfortable in my own skin again.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up, and I'm glad you finally got that. I can't tell you how many times I've heard just that. It took me losing everything in order to really realize what was important and what really was important to you in your life. And like you said, we change. We all change. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with having all the stuff. There's nothing wrong at all, especially if you earn it fair and square. You got enough means. For me, don't over leverage yourself just to get that stuff, just to keep up with the Joneses type stuff. Have the cash to get that and to experience that. Love it. But don't make that everything. It's like I saw a video of the child who had his video game taken away. And he's a young child, and he threw you'd think he was having a seizure. He threw an outright fit. Well, hopefully he's learning that lesson young, that things aren't that important. But I absolutely love that you did that. So what was your basic pivot point, your enough is enough moment, when you finally realized that after 2 years?
I don't know. I mean, I remember going out one night with a buddy, and we'd been out drinking, and I started thinking about, all this stuff that I'd gone through, and next thing you know, I passed out, and I could have really, hurt myself, but instead I cut my chin. I'm in the ER, and I remember just kind of thinking, like, just being filled with anxiety. I don't, really remember, because it was so long ago now, but like how I came out of it. But I remember thinking, I'm in something, you know what I mean? And, probably for a long time, just being cut off. And I agree with you. Like, there's nothing wrong with having nice stuff, right? Nothing at all in and of itself. But for me, it was more like, would this make me enough? right? Will this make me happy? And there was never enough. It never made me happy. And so I think being able to hit that sort of bottom and realize, okay, here's what really makes me happy, and then adding on, being more comfortable and having nice things, nothing wrong with it, as long as, I wasn't chasing it to make myself feel better or make enough or happy.
Yeah.
It was just a different mindset in that way.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Good point. At what point did you start podcasting and talking about all this stuff?
I think 2013, 14.
Well, so you'd been doing it for a good 12 or 13 years.
Oh yeah.
So how did that come about? How did you end up getting into podcasting?
Well, I had a guy call me up one day, and he said, "Mark, I want to learn how to invest in raw land like you." I said, "I don't teach people how to do that." He's like, "Well, why not?" I said, I just don't do it." So he said, "Well, what if I pay you X amount?" I'm like, "Oh, really?" So
Okay.
I'm like, "Okay, I'll teach you." So I taught him, and he did really, really well. And I recorded all those sessions, and I created a product out of it. And it's interesting because nobody ever really thanked me for selling them a piece of raw land. I mean, they were happy they bought a piece of raw land from me, right? But today I get emails and I get phone calls, and how I've changed people's lives by teaching them how to create passive income in real estate without the headaches of a renter or rehabs or renovations or rodents. And for me, that's been the most gratifying piece of it, is now, and I tell my wife this, she hates when I say it, but like, I can die in peace knowing that I've made a difference in the world. Like just today, I was talking to Sean and Rachel Rickman, whom were able to quit their job and invest in land full time, and they don't have kids, and they moved to Valencia, Spain, and they're doing land investing in Europe. Now they're going to the south of Italy, and it's just so inspiring to me and so amazing. I had another guy call me last week. He's like, "I make more money on the side investing in raw land than I do at my full-time job as a physical therapist." And he's like, retiring their spouses and having more time. It's just, for me, it's been so gratifying.
How amazing is that? And I want to kind of circle back just a little bit and then come back to that, because before we got to talking on the show and before we started recording, I mentioned that I got into real estate, and what I was doing was lease options. And I brought this up before, and you don't have to say how much, that you ultimately, the guy ended up paying you to do that. It's up to you. But I paid a guy, after reading all the books and everything and trying to get into real estate, I wasn't pulling the trigger. I was scared, I was fearful, putting in investments. Finally, I just pulled the trigger, and I paid a guy $5,000 to mentor me for a year to teach me how to do lease options. And he was literally on call when I was in a deal in Texas, and I said, hey, he was in California. He was either in California or Colorado, depending on what time of year. And I would call him and say, hey, man, this is the deal. He goes, all right, here's what you say. Go back in there and get this done. And that made all the difference in the world, to have that guy right there by my side to mentor me and walk me through every single deal. Well, now that guy today, that was several years ago. That was at least 15 years ago. Now that same guy today charges $25,000 to do the same thing I paid him $5,000 for. Now he gives you all the contracts and all that kind of stuff. But I'm bringing that up because I'm talking to you, men of abundance. When you want to do something and you see how somebody else is living, don't get pissed off about their lifestyle and how they're living. Ask them how they're doing what they do and see if they will mentor you, just like this gentleman did with Mark. And he was bold enough to say, hey, will you mentor me? Will you show me how to do what you do? No, or here's how much I'm willing, here's how much that's worth to me. How much is it worth to you? And find somebody that's doing what you want to do and contact them. I think Mark might be just the guy for some of you to contact if he would be willing to mentor you. What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
Well, I mean, I really think that if you live by the credo, you can always make more money, you can't get more time. Like, why wouldn't you shortcut it and just learn from somebody that's made all the mistakes? I mean, when I first started, I wish I had somebody like me to teach me. And today, I mean, I'm nuts. Like, I will buy literally anything if it'll save me time. One of my favorite apps now is Postmates. So like I don't go to Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or those stores anymore. I have somebody do my grocery shopping for me, so I can do what I want to do. I don't like doing that stuff. I don't go to Target. It gets delivered. I don't run to Chipotle anymore with the 3 kids. I have it delivered. It's the best time ever to be alive. And so between software and automation and crowdsourcing, you can really spend your life doing exactly what you want to do just about every minute of the day. Now, the question is, are you going to be productive during that time, right? So, yeah, I mean, if you're not productive, like I love to read, I love to exercise, I love to meditate, spend time with my family, and work. And so those things actually help me grow, so I can have even more time and more freedom and flexibility, as opposed to like, watching Netflix and paying for Postmates.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all about outsourcing. And when I say outsourcing, I'm not just talking about outsourcing your business. I'm talking about outsourcing your personal life too. One of the biggest questions I've asked this several times of people that I know and in forums and whatnot. Would you rather, asking of a lady, for instance, would you rather have a diamond ring, or would you rather have house cleaning for 30 days for your house? And 90% of the time, 99% of the time, it's house cleaning. Same thing with the car. Same thing with mowing the lawn. I used to have guys mow the lawn because of where I lived at before. Outsource that stuff so that you can enjoy the things that you would rather be doing. And you can even take it to the point to where what's your time worth. You can literally calculate that out. And not only worth, like, would you rather be working doing deals, or would you rather be taking the kids to the park, picking them up from school, doing that kind of stuff? How much is that time worth to you? And somebody else needs the income. Somebody else has the business. They have the job. They're trying to make a living too. Help them out. There's so many ways to look at that, and I'm all for it.
Oh yeah, it's amazing what you can do today.
Yeah, I actually know a guy who travels so much that he, on both, regardless of where he's at, definitely at home, he's in San Francisco, he has somebody come over and pack his clothes for him for his trip. And then on the other end, he's already got it lined up. I don't know how he does it. I don't know if it's an agency or something, but he's already got it lined up on the other end.
There's an agency.
Yeah.
There's services now that do it. It's amazing.
Exactly. And they unpack his clothes. They put him up in the hotel room and whatnot. He goes and does his conference, whatever he's doing. He don't have to worry about that stuff. That's one of the things he hates about traveling, and he's got it all taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is when you have abundance mentality, there's more than enough out there. So, that's our only non-renewable resource is time. Mm-hmm. So, but so many times people have scarcity mentality and they overvalue this thing we call money.
Yeah. Before we get into the pay it forward part of the show here, Mark, I want to ask you this. What's one of the best deals that you've done? What's one of the best stories you can share with us?
As far as one of the best deals I've done, it was back in 2004, 2005. I bought, hundreds of thousands of acres of land in Nevada, and then subdivided those properties. And on that one deal, I made over $5 million, and it moved the needle. It was the first time I ever went into debt. I went over $1 million in debt, and I'm freaking out. But it was definitely it was go big or go home at that time, and I went for it. That was a great deal. And then as far as the mentorship, I met this guy Scott Todd, and he went to one of my live events, and it took me 18 months to be able to quit my full-time job as an investment banker to go into land full-time. It took him 17 months and 3 days to replace his income at a Fortune 300 executive salary.
Wow. And
last year, he did 197 deals to my 192, and I couldn't be more proud of his success.
That is just amazing. Yeah, I feel that. That is such an amazing feeling to move from success to significance. And man, we've talked about this before. In fact, we just talked about this with Aaron Walker. And moving from success to significance. Success is what you do for yourself. Significance is what you do for somebody else. And if you get paid for that, it's still significance, because I'm telling you, they're glad to pay it because they're getting the return on their investment. But more importantly, they're getting their spouse home. They're getting themselves home. They're getting into a much healthier environment, depending on what you're doing, all things considered. But I just absolutely love that, Mark. And But at this point, I want to respect your time. So let's get into the pay it forward round. You ready for that?
I'm ready.
Outstanding. Hey man, if you guys are ready to take your life and your business to the next level, man, if I'm serious, I have something for you to check out. I just had a conversation this weekend with Evan Money. I was so pumped up after that conversation with him, and I didn't think I could get any more excited until I watched one of his documentaries that he has on Amazon Prime called Words of Art. You have to go check out this movie where he has conversations with Darren Hardy, Dennis Waitley, and so many other amazing individuals. And you're going to be able to hear our conversation in episode 139. It's going to post on the 20th of November, but that's not what I want to talk to you about right now. You're going to actually get the opportunity to meet Evan Money and meet his business partner, Dave M. Lucas. Because Dave and Evan are holding an amazing 3-day event called Grow, Thrive, Revive, February 27th to March 1st. And listen, there are only 25 slots, so you're going to have to jump on this really quick. I'm going to have the link in the show notes, but you can go to growthriverevive.com and see what this is for yourself. But just to give you a brief idea of what we're talking about here, Grow, Thrive, and Revive is a one-of-a-kind experience for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and leaders to focus on their business, maximize their capabilities, and create an amazing life experience in doing so. You will spend 3 days learning the best strategies, systems, and life hacks to grow yourself and your capabilities to help your business thrive. And doing it all while having the experience of your life, swimming with dolphins, racing Porsches, and much more helping you to revive. So either check out the link in the show notes or go directly to growthriverevive.com so that you can learn more about this event and learn more about who exactly is Evan Money and Dave Lucas. And listen, if you're serious about growing yourself and your business, you need to secure your seat at this inaugural Grow, Thrive, and Revive Summit and get the high-level coaching and training that you deserve. When you decide to register, hey, tell Evan that Wally sent you. No, seriously. When you do the registration, they're going to ask you who referred you. Go ahead and put Wally Carmichael in the box so that Evan knows that I sent you over there. And guys, I look forward to seeing you at Go Thrive Revive. Now, let's get back to the conversation. So give our abundant leaders 1 to 3 actionable steps that they can take today.
The first one is going to be educate yourself. So I would download an app called audible.com. Now, Audible's kind of expensive. It's like $15 a month. It's owned by Amazon. So I found another one, Wally. It's called, so go to tunein.com and you get unlimited audiobooks, music. It's crazy. And it's like $100 for the year. For unlimited audiobooks.
$100 for the year and you get unlimited downloads?
Yeah. And then you can get TED, NPR, ESPN, podcasts. It's amazing. You can listen to NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, commercial free. It's crazy.
Man, I'm telling you right now, that's crazy because I can't keep up with all the free podcasts that I listen to and the books that I purchase. Now, if I have a free, unlimited $100, I spend that. If I go to Barnes & Noble, between my wife and I, we're spending $200 in physical books. And that's just crazy.
Yeah. So I'm really enjoying tunein.com. My second actionable tip is figure out what you can automate. And there's this new website. You can run your whole business out of this thing, and it's free up to a certain point. It's called airtable.com. airtable.com. Airtable.com is amazing. It's amazing.
I'm going to check it out. What specifically does it do?
I don't want to make everybody's eyes glaze over, but if you could take a spreadsheet and a database and make it really easy to work and use and automate, that's what this does.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out, and I'll have all that linked up in the show notes as well. Do you have a third actionable step?
And my third actionable step is going to be learn more about abundance. And just, in growth and in making your life better. And I would say that right now that's going to be, something that, it's going to be a verb, right? So I just got this this thing called Best Self Journal. And so you got your gratitude journal in there. It's got a whole thing in there, your morning routine, your evening routine. It's got your goals, your targets, your lessons learned for that day, the wins. And it makes it really easy to sort of, focus, if you will, on making that day as productive as possible. And I love it. It's bestself.co, top productivity tools to achieve your goals.
Excellent. I'll have all that linked up in the show notes at menofabundance.com. You'll be able to see all the show notes with timestamps and all that cool stuff. You've heard me talk about that before. So other than journaling and, your attitude of gratitude every single morning, what other habits do you have that make the biggest impact in your life?
I would say I love, I struggle with it sometimes. Daily meditation. And so, and I've tried Headspace and Calm and all these things. And now there's this new app called Sway. I really love it. It's SWAY. I don't know. It might have been $1 or $2.
Okay, yeah, we'll check that out. And again, I'll have that linked up as well. I love checking out all these apps, and then I'll have them linked up in the show notes. So what are you reading or listening to today that you could recommend to our abundant leaders, and why?
I'm reading Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote Sapiens, one of my favorite books of all time. Homo Deus is amazing. It's one of those books that'll blow your mind. So I'm loving that book, and just because I love history and I love thinking about the future, and he kind of combines both. Amazing author. I just finished Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving Enough, and that was really great too.
That sounds like one that's right up my alley. The other one sounds like it's a book that's more down my wife's alley. She loves anything history and future. She's totally into that. So I'm going to recommend that one to her for sure.
All right. Awesome.
Absolutely. So I've got really 2 more questions for you. The first one is, what do you think holds most people back from living their life of abundance and jumping into doing something like what you're doing?
I mean, Wally, would you agree that it's always fear? It's always the lizard brain. It's always,
it is.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, I think it's always comes down to fear, and it's not like I have all this courage, right? I feel the fear just like everybody else, and just I feel it, I acknowledge it, and then I go through my exercise. Well, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? It's not like the old days we'd walk outside and, we could get mauled by a tiger. Like there's nothing, we have no real fears anymore. Right. So everybody has anxiety and, these issues because, we're all in our heads. But I really think that when you watch your thoughts and you kind of see, like for me, 95% of my thoughts are future-based and anxiety. And I just watch it and I would never listen to that person. If my thoughts were another person, first of all, that guy never shuts up, and he flip-flops at a moment's notice. Mm-hmm. So why am I listening to that? So I listen to it and I discount it. So I would say fear is what holds people back.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I've always said that the cure for fear is action. But also the cure for fear on top of action is having somebody by your side, like a coach or a mentor, somebody who's already been down that road. That doesn't mean that you're not going to run into your own obstacles. You are. But at least it's really, having a coach or a mentor is really going to help subside some of those fears, especially when you're there getting ready to sign $1 million deal and go $1 million in debt. But you potentially see a couple, $1 million on top of that coming back to you. I can imagine that level of fear.
Oh yeah, that was a few sleepless nights for sure.
I'm telling you, because when I did my first couple of lease options, I was signing for a property that I was potentially going to be paying the a couple $2,000 monthly mortgage on until I got a tenant buyer in there, and that alone was just on as a young. I think I was a young staff sergeant in the Army at the time, or sergeant first class. Doesn't make a whole lot of money, and certainly not that much, to be paying 2 mortgages and rent or whatever. But that alone was pretty nerve-wracking. But I did it because I had that guy by my side, and I had some skills. I knew what to do.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great.
Excellent. So what does living a life of abundance mean to you? I think you've pretty much already answered that, but let's answer it here.
I mean, I think living a life of abundance is a daily ritual of fighting. For me, it's like fighting my default of how I grew up, right? I didn't grow up with an abundance mentality. My parents didn't have an abundance mentality. So I think for me, it's fighting through it every day, knowing that there's enough, I'm enough, or at least practicing it, and really having a metric of abundance. Like, how do you define success, right? So for me, it might be spending time in being present with the ones I love.
It's a great answer, and what I really liked about your answer was that there is enough in the world, but the part that really struck me that you said was that you're enough. You said, I'm enough. And that alone is what most people really need to catch right up front is, I am enough. I really am. That doesn't mean we're going to stop growing. We say in the military, we say in the Army anyway, we consistently are improving our foxhole. We got to consistently improve ourselves. If you're not improving yourself, then you're going backwards in my mind, or you're just going stagnant. But understand that you are enough. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. So we're going to close this up. Before we do, is there anything that you would like to share with us that I haven't asked? And then we'll find out how we can find out more about you.
I mean, I think we covered it all, Wally.
Sweet.
I think we're good, man.
We did. How can our abundant leaders get in contact with you? Let's list out we're going to have your podcast all linked up in the show notes and all that kind of stuff. But what do you have coming up? What's exciting that our guys can get a hold of?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about my new software program I just developed called geekpay.io. It's the only financial CRM, automated financial CRM in the country. So if you're collecting money on a recurring basis and you have somebody that calls you up and says, hey, what's my current balance? This will automate it for ACH and credit cards. If the ACH fails, it charges the credit card on file. If the credit card fails, it charges the ACH on file. So it's great for doctors and lawyers and people that have auto dealers, real estate guys. I'm really excited about it. It's the first time that I've ever kind of scratched my own itch and looked at the market, like everything else there sucks, and just created my own solution. And I'm really proud of that. But I think for the people that really want to, create more passive income and have their passive income exceed their fixed expenses, the best place to learn more about that is thelandgeek.com and, learn what I'm so excited about.
Excellent. Like I said, we'll have all that linked up in the show notes. And how can we get a hold of that, find out more about that software?
I would go to geekpay.io and then just schedule a demo with me, and I'll walk you through it.
Perfect. Sounds good. Because I know there's a couple guys out there that are definitely going to be interested in that, and we'll have all that linked up as well. Mark, it's been a pleasure. Truly enjoyable and conversation. I love what you have going on. I'm going to take a look at what you're doing as well because, like I told you before, I've always been interested in real estate. Every time I'm looking around, seeing what's going on in the market. Out here in Hawaii, it's just crazy. You're in a perfect market for it being down there in Phoenix for sure.
Oh, yeah. But you're living the dream, Wally.
Yeah, well, I am. There's no doubt about that. That's why I started this whole abundance journey and sharing my journey with everybody else. But love having these conversations, and I respect you, man.
Thanks, Wally. I really appreciate it.
All right, take care. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, guys, we got a little bit technical on that one, talking about the real estate and all the raw development deals and everything. And I know you got so much out of that conversation, but I want to go back to the reason why I titled this particular episode, Fighting Your Default to Live a Life of Abundance, because Mark said that when we were going through the Pay It Forward round. He said you have to fight your default, and he had a hard time fighting his default, and I do too. This is something that is ingrained in us. There are so many defaults that we have in our head that are not healthy. They're not moving us forward, and we spend much of our time in this abundance mindset trying to get rid of the default programming that we had in our mind about money, about sex, about relationships, about reaching out and asking for help, and all of this stuff. We have these default screwed up programming in our head that we have to get rid of. So we have to fight that default and reprogram our brain. That's what we're doing here. We're here fighting the default so that we can live a life of abundance, get rid of the scarcity mindset, get rid of the ideas that money is the root of all evil, get rid of the ideas that sex is what we should be, the type of stuff that you see in these pornography films and not even just pornography, but in Hollywood. And relationships are this crap that we see in Hollywood and all of these other things that we've been told that simply is not true in many cases. Now, some of you were brought up perfect and you were brought up great, and I commend you for that. You should be reaching out and helping other people, but the rest of us, we weren't. I certainly was not. I was brought up in a screwed up environment, and I've been fighting my entire adult life trying to get myself on the right path, knowing what right looks like, but I fight this default. I personally fight it as well. And that's part of the reason why I started this whole abundance journey, so that I can get around more guys like you who recognize that we're screwed up, that we have these issues that we need to fight against, and then not really fix it, but just kind of enhance our mindset, enhance our brains to switch over from the scarcity mindset, the bad relationships mindset, the sex mindset, and all these other things, so that we can live abundantly in everything that we do in family, faith, finances, and fitness. Now, I don't know if that's what you got out of that conversation, but that's part of what I got out of it, and I wanted to share that with you. Now go out and live your life of abundance, and men, make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.